The First Battle of Chintaka was believed by Starfleet and the United Federation of Planets as the possible turning point in the war between the Federation Alliance and the Dominion. And although successful at first, eventually Chintaka would become a huge loss for Starfleet and very demoralizing for the Alliance in general. Hello and welcome to Trek Facts, a web series that takes a fun and fast look at the fundamentals of Star Trek. In today's video, we're taking a look at the history and Starship classes that participated in the First Battle of Chintaka, to better understand this battle's place in Star Trek history. Stardate 50975.2. Faced with constant Dominion troops, supplies, and ships using the Bajoran wormhole as an access point to the Alpha Quadrant, and in turn building up their forces in Cardassian space, Captain Benjamin Sisko of Starbase Deep Space Nine decides to mine the wormhole to prevent any further buildup by Dominion forces. Immediately, the Dominion takes exception to this and declares war on the Federation-Klingon alliance, and are successful in taking over Starbase Deep Space Nine during the Second Battle of Deep Space Nine, though their effort to prevent the minefield from being completed was unsuccessful, and as such they were cut off from their Gamma Quadrant forces. Stardate 51227.2. Captain Benjamin Sisko aboard the USS Defiant leads the Federation Allied forces in a battle to recover Deep Space Nine from the hands of the Dominion, before they can disable the minefield preventing their forces from crossing into the Alpha Quadrant from the Gamma Quadrant. Though initially the USS Defiant is the only ship to break through the lines and make it to Deep Space Nine, they were unsuccessful in their attempt to stop the Dominion, and the minefield was in fact destroyed. Entering the wormhole, the USS Defiant was intent on destroying as many Dominion ships as it could when the wormhole aliens, or prophets as they are known by the Bajoran people, intervened and caused all Dominion ships to vanish. The exact nature of the disappearance of the vessels is still unknown. But with Deep Space Nine's weapon systems deactivated by Major Kira and Rom, the Dominion was forced to abandon the station and head back into Cardassian space, preparing for a long, drawn-out war, just as the Federation Allied fleet broke through the Dominion lines en masse. Captain Benjamin Sisko returned to his rightful place as station commander of Deep Space Nine. Stardate 51721.3. With casualties mounting for the Federation Allied fleet, Starfleet calls upon the Romulan Empire to enter the war on their side. The Romulans, however, refuse, until a highly regarded senator is killed returning to the homeworld with what seemed to be proof of Dominion duplicity and their intent to invade Romulus. The Romulans join the Federation Allied fleet and open a second front in the war. Stardate 51987.4. In an effort to put an end to the Dominion War, Starfleet Command decides to finally go on the offensive against the Dominion and its Cardassian allies. They assign Captain Benjamin Sisko as the overseer to plan the invasion of Cardassia. And as his first act, he decides to attack what appears to be a sparsely guarded star system known as Chintaka. He assembles a fleet of Allied starships to attack it. Due to some of the information surrounding this battle being classified, only a partial listing of the classes of ships is available. However, the following classes did in fact participate in the First Battle of Chintaka. The direct predecessor to the Galaxy class of starships, the Ambassador class was a symbol of Starfleet ingenuity in the early to mid-24th century. Considered a heavy cruiser, this class was equipped with 10 phaser arrays and 2 photon torpedo launchers. Not many of this class are known to have participated during the war, but they were present. It's unknown if this class received any special upgrades or refits during the Dominion War to bring it more in line with the newer Starship classes that had superior technology. but it would be a logical assumption given that both the Excelsior and Galaxy classes did receive upgrades and refits during this time. Having a basic design similar to that of the NX class of 200 years prior, the Akira class was approximately 464 meters in length and had a crew of approximately 500 officers and men. Designated as a Starfleet equivalent to a gunboat and aircraft carrier, this ship class contained 6 phaser emitter arrays and up to 15 photon torpedo launchers. Its large and connected shuttle bays could hold and deploy many of Starfleet's smaller fighters, making this ship class a must-have at any engagement. Being the first Starship Starfleet designed solely as a warship vessel, the Defiant class was only approximately 170 meters in length and 4 decks tall. With a crew of only 50 officers and men, this class contained 4 newly developed phaser cannons, 3 phaser emitter arrays, and 6 torpedo launchers. The Defiant class torpedo launchers could also launch the newly developed quantum torpedoes, a much higher yield torpedo weapon than that of the standard photon torpedo. This class also contained a blade of hull armor to augment her shield systems, making her longer lasting in a battle. The USS Defiant NX 74205 participated in the battle under the command of Captain Benjamin Sisko, who oversaw the entire military offensive. One of the longest-running Starfleet starship designs, the Excelsior class would participate in the battle, with a crew of approximately 750 officers and men, and boasting 10 phaser array emitters and 2 photon torpedo launchers as standard. This class stood at approximately 511 meters in length and 34 decks tall. In 2372, as a direct response to the Dominion threat, the Excelsior-class starships in service throughout the Federation began receiving a series of refits that would put them in line with the newer Starship classes of the time. As a result, the Excelsior class became a valued frontline starship class for Starfleet. The jewel of Starfleet's starship design crown in the mid-2360s, a number of Galaxy-class starships would participate in the First Battle of Chintaka. At approximately 641 meters in length and 42 decks tall, this class sported 14 phaser array emitters and 2 photon torpedo launchers. It is generally believed that all Galaxy-class starships that did participate in this battle had been refit with the newer available technologies and engineering breakthroughs made after the Battle of Wolf 359, though this information cannot be confirmed. The typical offensive arsenal of the Bird of Prey included 2 forward-firing wing-mounted disruptor cannons, 2 photon torpedo launchers positioned fore and aft, and any Klingon House-specific modified weapons emitters such as ship-mounted phaser banks. Easily scalable, unlike most ship classes, the Klingon Bird of Prey came in multiple sizes with multiple crew complements. The Bird of Prey was also outfitted with a cloaking device, and this was the key to the class's success in battle, often using a decloak, fire, recloak, move to a new position, decloak, and fire again technique. The Klingon Bird of Prey was also capable of atmospheric operations, an advantage most Federation starships did not have. Having similar design lines to that of the Klingon D7 and Katinga classes, the Vorcha class was approximately 481 meters in length, with a width of approximately 342 meters. This class was crewed by 1,900 Klingon warriors, with additional accommodations for troops should the mission require it. The Vorcha class had 18 ship-mounted disruptor cannons, 1 large forward disruptor, and 3 torpedo launchers. Heavily armed, the forward disruptor cannon was capable of firing solid and intermittent disruptor beams, and was one of the most powerful disruptor cannons ever created by any galactic power. Also a long-running design of Starfleet's, the Miranda class was approximately 278 meters in length. This class had 6 dual phaser bank emitters that were standard to all designs and variants, and most were equipped with 2 photon torpedo launchers. Many Miranda classes participated in this battle with varying degrees of success. The Romulan Diderdix class warbird was nearly twice the length of Starfleet's Galaxy class, but had a warp drive that was not as good or as efficient as Starfleet vessels of the time. It was approximately 1,042 meters in length and 285 meters high, with a crew of approximately 1,500 officers and men. The Diderdix class had a primary weapons array which consisted of disruptor emitters. These emitters had variable energy outputs, like Starfleet's phaser arrays, and could be set for continuous beam or pulses depending on situation requirements. 3 additional secondary arrays were also incorporated into the warbird, one at the top of the neck, one at the bottom, and one at the tip of its nose. Also contained within the primary weapons array was a torpedo launcher. Although equipped with standard cloaking devices, this class was not well known for its use of those cloaking devices during battle. Approximately 365 meters in length, with a crew of only 40 officers and men, this class sported 4 phaser emitter arrays and 2 photon torpedo launchers. This class featured an angular primary hull with an integrated navigational deflector and secondary hull. The warp nacelles were also attached directly to the saucer section. Various ships of this class participated in the battle. The Steamrunner class was a somewhat drastic departure from other Starfleet vessel designs of the 24th century. It featured a large saucer section and a detached secondary hull, not unlike the design employed in the Oberth class of starships, but was joined at the aft to the ship's nacelles. The nacelles themselves were directly attached to the saucer section. The ship's navigational deflector dish was housed in the rear section on the detached secondary hull, while the bridge module was inset between the Bussard collectors on the primary hull. This class had a length of approximately 375 meters and a crew of 200 officers and men. It also sported 4 phaser emitter arrays and 2 photon torpedo launchers. Though generally undefended as previously stated, the Chintaka system did include the following forces to in fact defend it. The Cardassian Orbital Weapons Platform was developed in late 2374 as a direct response to the Dominion forces being spread too thin thanks to the Romulan entrance into the war effort on the side of the Federation allies. They were protected by regenerative force fields and equipped with 3 heavy disruptors and 1,000 plasma torpedoes. Also known as a fighter and patrol vessel, the Jem'Hadar attack ship had a length of approximately 90 meters, and was very powerful for a ship of its size. This class of ship was crewed by 42 Jem'Hadar as well as 1 Vorta Field Supervisor, who was, for all intents and purposes, the commander of the vessel, though command could also fall to the Jem'Hadar first in various situations. Armaments for this class varied from disruptors to phased Polaron beam weapons, though generally speaking most of this class was outfitted with the latter mentioned Polaron weapon systems that included torpedo launchers. During initial encounters with the Federation, these phased Polaron beam weapons were capable of penetrating the shields of Federation starships, But Starfleet quickly adapted their ships to this technology, making polaron beam weapons less of a threat to a starship and more on par with the standard weapon systems of the time. Though it appeared at first that the Federation had succeeded in invading the Chintaka system before the Cardassian weapons platforms were operational, shortly into the battle, these superweapons did in fact come online and Allied casualties began to mount. General Martok's Klingon forces also took heavy casualties, as the Jem'Hadar attack ships began kamikaze suicide runs into the Klingon ships themselves. Realizing the weapons platforms were being powered by an outside source, the USS Defiant was able to locate that source, and by using their navigational deflector to imprint a Federation warp signature on the platform's power station, the Cardassians' own superweapons turned and fired on their own station, causing its destruction. With the system now void of enemies to protect it, Federation Allied forces were able to quickly destroy the powered-down platforms and occupy the Chintaka system. A major victory for the Allies, it was quickly forgotten in the light of the revelation that the Bajoran wormhole was no longer accessible, and that the momentum that had begun was halted with the Federation Allied forces not proceeding any further into Cardassian space. And a year later, the Chintaka system would be the site of a Dominion counterattack that would see the Federation Allied forces lose control of the system with devastating losses. Though Federation Allied forces only held the Chintaka system for slightly over a year, the importance of this battle cannot be overstated. It did provide demoralized troops a chance to take the fight to the enemy, and spirits throughout the United Federation of Planets were for a time lifted, even though that feeling would not last for long.